day he said, Swami, I will teach you. And he said, in his very powerful car. And that Ratna's car was parked there. So I pressed the pedal. He never taught me how much to press. He only said press. And straight it went and then dashed against Ratna's car. So that was the first lesson and last lesson in driving. Yeah. So you see, if there is power, we must have those two powers. How to control the power and how to direct it. And where to direct it. That is where to direct it. Understand? One American was driving a jeep. And suddenly his jeep stalled. So he had to walk 5 miles to get a mechanic. So mechanic came with his car. He brought him also. And he took a hammer, opened the bonnet, gave a tap, and the jeep was all right. And then how much? $400. The man got wild. What? For giving a tap? $400. He said, no, I will give a detailed bill. So, for tapping, only $1. But where to tap? $399. You see, we have to, if we get power, that is why it corrupts people. Why does it corrupt? Because they don't have the control. And secondly, they don't know how to use that power. Understand? What is the target of this power? How do I use this power? That's why in science, interesting thing, we use 2 words, science and technology. What is the difference between science and technology?
Using the science.
Application of scientific knowledge is called technology. Now, the people who discover, scientists, they are totally separate people. And the people who use those applications are usually separate people. And that is where the problem comes. Who discovered this, how to make a bomb? Einstein, so many people, they all got together, their background knowledge. But who used that knowledge? Politicians. And that's what business people are doing. Because business people control everybody nowadays. For not politicians, it is the business people who are controlling. Your Tesco, your big Walmart, these are the Asda. These are the people who are the invisible controllers. But they are so clever. They let, when something, they let the politicians take the name for the policies. Those policies are shaped by whom? By the business people. For their, laws and regulations. Recently there was so much of controversy about whether Google and businesses, they are not paying enough tax, etc. So why are not they paying? Because the government laws, they are paying according to the law of the government. That's why this Google's CEO, openly he said, you change the law, we will pay the tax. But so long as your law is this, and legally we can pay only this much. What is the use of your shouting that you are making such a big business and you have to pay so much of tax? You say, according to your law, this much is only allowed. We are paying it. You cannot arrest. That is why government cannot take them to court, because they are obeying the law perfectly. But they know that ordinary people are paying so much more tax. But these are not paying. That is why defeat law by law. Anyway, coming back to our subject, Ravanasura is an example of the misuse of yogic power. Was Ravanasura a yogi? He is a part yogi, not full yogi. Why do we say he is a part yogi? He knows how to get power, but he doesn't have that control, yoga, how to control his own mind. That is why Yatishan Maharaj used to put it in a different way. He used to say that acquiring concentration is not that difficult. But before you acquire concentration, you must achieve sufficient amount of purity of mind. What happens otherwise? Supposing a man is lustful, for example, and he achieves concentration. What happens to him? His lust will increase. Suppose he is an angry person, his anger will increase. Suppose he is a greedy person, his greed will increase. Suppose he is a jealous person. Do you see why so many sadhus from India, they come and fall? Why do they fall? We see practically most of them fall. Who did they become well known here? They must have done something. They have something. Simply you can't go out and say, I am a great yogi from India, and then people will come crowding around. It doesn't happen. To attract people, they need some power. But having attracted people, name, fame, wealth, and admiration, and after some time scandals come, this fellow had fallen. Why did he fall?
Lack of purity.
Hmm?
Lack of purity of mind.
He acquired concentration, some power. Concentration means power. From now onwards, whenever you use the word concentration, instead of using concentration, use the word power. Because if you are reading this book with concentration, your power of comprehension is proportionate to the power of your concentration. If you are a business person, your business success is proportionate to the power of your simple fact, your cooking. If you put concentration, dramatically your cooking power will increase. Then you won't put salt instead of sugar in payasam. That's why if make fun, and people there is the payasam is yoga bhrashta payasam. I don't dare to call them yoga bhrashtas. I only indirectly blame this yoga bhrashta payasam. But the blame goes to whom? To the person who has cooked. Why? What is yoga bhrashta payasam? Payas which doesn't taste like payas. It's called yoga bhrashta payasam. Yes. You observe, you open your eyes and observe, eat. If 4 people bring payasam, you will see whose payasam is tastier. How do you recognize? Because a person whose concentration is there, how much time to cook and how much quantity of sugar they have to put, at what point of time it is ready to be taken down and served. All these things, they have to pay attention. Some payasam, uncooked rice. There is, for everything there is a proportion. That's why I am dwelling so much. There is a proportion. You can't take that thick grained rice and then make payasam. But you can make South Indian pongal out of it. It's very tasty. Have you noticed? If you make pongal with fine rice, it won't taste. It will be paste. But if you take that thick grained rice, the pongal tastes extremely good. I mean, that's only one ingredient. Then how much milk, and then how much of that jaggery you have to put. All these things differ.
So then concentration again depends on
Concentration means complete you are aware,
awareness.
awareness. You have to understand what is the meaning of concentration. When you are concentrating on reading a book, you are only focusing how to get the ideas. First of all, what the man is talking about, understanding. Secondly, what is the relationship between what he talked previously and what he is talking now. There is a sequence is there. This idea in the beginning, it leads to the second idea, it leads to the third idea. The whole thing leads to one central idea. Is it not? There is the difference between one person's writing and another person's writing, even novels, stories. The moment you read one person's story, you start enjoying it thoroughly. Page turner, they call it, page turner. There are two types of page turners. When the book is so interesting and you are enjoying it, that is one type of page turning. When you are in a tamasic mood, there is another type of page turning. Pages are being turned, nothing is going inside. This is another type of page. So interesting, the subject is so interesting. So Maharaj is telling, through the practice of yoga, power is generated, which is also a bondage. Ravana is an example of this. Through the practice of devotion, emotion increases and the aspirant becomes more attached to objects. What a wonderful thing it is. You see, in devotion, how do you increase devotion?
Increasing the love.
Increase your emotion. You feel so emotional by hearing the name of God or hearing some nice bhajan, etc. But that very emotion is a raw attachment. When it is directed towards God, then it becomes bhakti. But it is like power. See, if you are not attached to God, what happens to that emotion? That is why I will give you two examples. Swamiji, when he was lecturing in the West, suddenly during the middle of the lecture, he stops, walks off. And that was a terrible day because everybody is thoroughly enjoying it. It's an insult. Because first of all, they used to take money. It is not even free. And so many people paid. And then they attended. It's really, they were in a high mood. Suddenly he stops. And he gets all the blame. Then later on somebody asked him, why did you do that? Then it is not India, India you come late. And then you go on carrying also. Late. You understand? You come late and carry on. Some Sambuddhananda, I heard a story about him. Once he came late. He was to give a lecture. Then he started. 3 hours passed. He was not leaving the microphone at all. People were shouting, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. It was their religious way of protesting. He was an intelligent man. He was head of Mumbai Ashram. Then he said, look here, if you stop making the sizzling noises, I will stop in another 1 hour. But if you don't, I will carry on for another 3 hours. Which one? Immediately they all fell silent. And then he finished after 45 minutes.
In which ashram it happened?
Not ashrama.
Okay.
It's somewhere outside. He was invited to give, because he was head of an ashrama, senior Swami, and he was beloved of Baburam Maharaj and all that. He was a great soul in so many ways. And he used to get up at 3 o'clock and sit for long hours of japa. So in between I saw him also snoring. But he gets up, he used to get up. That nishtha, every single day he will get up.
3 in the morning.
And he won't sleep. Anyway, the point is, emotion, and this is one example I gave. Another example is this Thakur's life. Somebody, some young man, he attended a kirtan party, and suddenly he went into his high ecstatic state. And by hearing Hari Nam, tears started flowing. And his relatives and friends, they did not know what to make it. They brought him to Thakur. And Thakur immediately said, he has attained some very high state of bhakti, but this is not due to constant practice, it is emotional. Suddenly, as it were, he jumped. If any woman touches him with bad feeling, immediately his devotion will run out. And that is what exactly happened. Some woman touched him. Fortunately, it's good also. Immediately all his bhava, everything has vanished. Instantaneously, like this. So the thing is, the only way you can increase your devotion is to increase your emotion. But if it is not preceded by the 7 steps, viveka, vimoha, etc., then you will not have the power to control it. So what happens is, wherever it turns, it gets attached. So this is what happens in emotional people. So many people, one moment they will be doing bhajan, the greatest, really, sincerely. Next moment they rush and do something completely undesirable. This is what Maharaj is talking about. These things usually we don't talk in the public, because these are not a very savory type of subjects. But usually it is what lust happens. So these so-called sadhus, yogis that come, usually they practice in their young age. There is also another thing, which is very, very important. The older we become, the lesser will be our control, self-control. The desire will not become less, but the controlling power becomes less. That is why so many people fall in old age. So when these people come, name, fame, and they are egotistic, and somewhere some woman or other will come near to them, because women are invariably attracted to power. Whether it is rock musician, money, because for them it is their nature. This is security for them, power. That's why rock musicians are most popular, they arouse so much of emotion, raw emotion. That's why women are running after them. And the way these musicians dress, like Chandamama Rakshasas, kinky hair, and then they're like that, legs apart, and then swaying. Many of them take drugs or drink before coming to the stage. Otherwise they can't get that mood. Your Bhimsen Joshiji. How does he get into that mood? Rag Bilahari. Swaying like that, It relaxes, and at the same time he was a tall man with his big hands. This poor Balamurali Krishna was sitting by the side. You notice? Jugalbandi. You see that one. Very interesting. On the YouTube it is there. Bhimsen Joshi, Balamurali Krishna. And they were singing South Indian, same raga, South Indian version versus North Indian version. This Bhimsen Joshi, like this. Fortunately he sat quite apart, otherwise it looks as though he is like a spear. They can't steadily sit and sing. They need that expression. And of all these expressors, Bhimsen Joshi is the extreme. You have seen?
He has
Yes.
an actual live.
No, it's nowadays first class YouTube, YouTubes you can see. Really, what a great singer he was. what a
Doesn't-
control.
doesn't matter.
Oh, like that if it's for a long time it continues. So really, that mastery is there. It's wonderful. Some people have the talent, and he also used to. So I heard that he used to drink quite a lot. Most of Balamurali Krishna also, quite nicely he drinks, and he fell for a young woman later on in his life. And then this our hero, my hero, N.T. Ramarao, he also in his old age, he married one young woman who was his script writer. Like that, these people, their very emotions, which brought them that power and name and fame, and that very emotion had led them to their own downfall later on. Because that's what Maharaj is telling. The emotion is the only way for devotion, but at the same time, if there is not that power of control and direction and purity, then that very thing leads to downfall.
Swamiji, when you see people like the Hare Krishna movement, or
Yes.
they have this thing, they sing and they dance at the
Yes.
same time.
Yes.
So when you do bhajan, is that appropriate to move around or dance?
Provided you know what you are doing. First of all, mostly it is a cultivated habit. There is something, you have a feeling and expression comes, is the most natural thing. For example, you are angry. Very naturally your body will be shaking, your hand will be going like this, it's natural. That kind of joy in singing, how many people get? How much devotion is necessary that O Rama, Ni Namam Enta Ruchira. There's a song, there's a story behind it. Remember, O Rama, if you want, you have to come after the Arati. And we have to go. O Rama, Ni Namam Enta Ruchira.